This is CBC Nova Scotia News.
Tonight's school threats. 2 teens face charges following a bomb threat at a Halifax school this week. Running out of funds. A food bank that serves an area hit hard by last year's wildfires is struggling to keep up with demand. And chase the ace fever. Excitement is growing in Cape Breton with just 2 cards remaining in the draw.
A fine weekend shaping up across the province. Some clouds in the mix, but some sunshine as well. Break it down with your full forecast coming up.
Good evening. 2 teenagers have been charged in connection with a recent bomb threat at a high school in the Halifax area. This follows a rash of recent bomb threats at Nova Scotia schools. And as the CBC's Marie Adset reports, police expect more charges against others in the coming days.
Since early April, police have been scrambling to respond to multiple schools multiple times for threats of a bomb in the building. On their busiest day, answering 4 to 5 calls. The latest happened here at John Ilsley High School on May 7th. That led to the arrest of 2 teenagers.
Yesterday, our investigators charged both a 16-year-old and 15-year-old youth who will be facing charges of threats and mischief in relation to those. They are criminal charges, and at this point, we wouldn't be able to speculate specifically what the outcome will be of those charges.
In all, RCMP and Halifax police are still investigating 25 such cases that police don't believe are connected. While police say more charges are pending, the Halifax Regional Centre of Education confirms some other students have already been caught and suspended.
Some students involved have been identified, and then they have been, of course, they have received consequences in accordance with the school provincial code of conduct.
So far, the threats have all turned out to be false, but it's still causing great disruption. Stacey Rutterham, who leads Nova Scotia Parents for Public Education, is hoping news of the arrest will be a future deterrent.
I think that the consequences in this situation will maybe send a message to future culprits who want to make these false threats against schools. We already have enough threats and dangers in our schools with the violence and other situations that are erupting recently. And I just don't think we need to have any added stress and anxieties on top of those.
And adding to the stress, communications. Rutterham says parents felt left out of the loop. Education Minister Becky Drouin says there is always room for improvement.
We can always do a better job in relation to communication, but I know the region takes it very seriously and works very diligently to communicate in a timely and responsive manner.
HRCE says no threats were received yesterday or today. Marie Adset, CBC News, Halifax.
And I'll talk to Stacey Rutterham with Nova Scotia Parents for Public Education about the impact these false threats are having on families. That is our newsmaker just after 6:30. Halifax's mandatory rental property registry is now up and running. More than 10,000 registrations have been received so far, representing more than 66,000 rental units. Landlords had to be registered by April 1st, but staff are focusing on education rather than issuing fines. The registry, which some groups have been pushing for, will allow for proactive safety and fire inspections of smaller buildings and provide a way to keep track of repeat offenders and buildings with many standards violations.
The main reason we were fighting for the rental registry is we were hearing a lot of complaints from tenants that were trying to deal with their landlords that were having a lot of issues within their units, such as mold and bugs and just regular maintenance. And they weren't getting any satisfaction from their landlords. And then a lot of tenants that did complain, they were actually being rent-evicted.
The Investment Property Owners Association of Nova Scotia says the registry is just more red tape and doesn't help landlords make units more affordable or accessible. People who run a food bank in Shelburne County are worried they may run out of cash to supply the growing number of people they're supporting. As we hear in this report from the CBC's Paul Palmeter, it's been incredibly busy at the food bank ever since the wildfires ravaged the area last spring.
This is what Carla Nickerson likes to see. The local hardware store is making a delivery to her food bank in Villagedale near Barrington Passage. But the food bank is in trouble because more people than ever are now using it and funds are getting low.
We are down to having enough in the account to get us through the next 2 weeks. So if I don't come up with a miracle in the next 2 weeks, I have to look at these families and tell them that I don't have anything for them. You lose a little sleep over that.
Nickerson calls herself a food security volunteer. Her organization runs a 10-by-10 shed on her property that has 3 fridges, a freezer, and lots of shelves for a wide variety of products, including fruits and vegetables. One of the fridges is even dedicated to gluten-free products. But they are seeing an overwhelming number of people now coming to their food shed. The overload of users started when wildfires ran through the area 1 year ago, and it hasn't slowed down since.
The fire was devastating for us here because we had no sooner stocked their shelves and their freezers, and then they had lost everything when they had to evacuate. So once we all returned home, we had to go and restock everybody again, and it was very expensive.
Nickerson says they are now serving people from all walks of life, which is new.
All right, this one's going out to Arlie.
Nickerson says they would be in big trouble if not for a program called Second Harvest, where weekly donations are delivered from the 2 local grocery stores in the area. Items that are near their best before dates are sorted for people to come and get them. The donations are huge because it's very expensive for the group to go out and purchase the food with prices being so high.
When we first started, we didn't anticipate spending more than maybe $10,000 a year, and now we're at about the $10,000 a month mark, about a year and a half later.
Simmons says they use grants and assistance from groups like the United Way to help them through their financial struggles. But the demand is so high it's sending the organization into the red.
We are coming down to a low balance in our bank account, so we have about a week, 2 weeks left or so. We're still hunting down a few more grants and looking for a few more donations.
Arlie Gorham is one of the volunteers with the organization. He has MS, and it wasn't long ago that he had to start using the service.
I can pay my bills and eat now, and that wasn't happening before. And it feels good to be a part of this and helping other people out in the same boat,
Hi.
Oh, how you doing?
Good, how are you today?
Carla Nickerson says she's gotten overwhelming support from people in her community anytime she needs something. Now she has a big ask.
When I ask for something, it's given. So right now, I guess I'm asking for money, I'm asking for help, because we are feeding people from Lockport, Sable River, Yarmouth, Wedgeport, Cape Sable Island.
Paul Pometer, CBC News, Villagedale.
The public will get a rare look inside one of Canada's leading ocean research facilities in Halifax this weekend. It's to celebrate a very special anniversary at Dalhousie University. Paul Withers got a sneak peek.
This is the pool tank. It's the central piece of the aquatron, but it's not the whole place.
Chances are if it swims, floats, or sinks, it's been tested inside the aquatron. What kind of fish species have you had?
We've had Greenland sharks, we've had Atlantic salmon, striped bass, squid. We've raised squid from eggs in here. Beyond fish, we've had seals, robots on the bottom, on the top. It's a shorter list of what we haven't done.
Manager John Batt in Dalhousie throwing the doors open to give the public a chance to see and feel the research underway here. From the latest in high-tech ocean monitoring to touch tanks for marine scientists in waiting.
We're doing tours of the aquatron. We're going to have robots in the pool tank. The Del Tiger is going to show up, and we even have face painting for the younger kids. So we wanted to have something for everybody.
There are dozens of tanks, large and small, and laboratories like this one, where they are researching shellfish and eelgrass and how they are affected by a changing environment. Depending on the crowds, there's also a chance to see another facet of the aquatron, its role as a Noah's Ark for the Atlantic whitefish, a salmon relative on the brink of extinction. The wild population survives only in 3 lakes behind the town of Bridgewater. Now so endangered, the young are whisked to the aquatron for safety, grown to spawning age for later reintroduction.
We're not seeing many in the wild. I believe none in the last couple of years. So
none of the young.
Yeah, so we've got the whole species here in the lab, and we do feel a lot of pressure for that. If there's a big disaster, we could lose it, and with that we could lose the species. So we have them in different parts of the lab, we have them on different systems, they're all alarmed.
Researchers from around the world have been coming here for 50 years. Saturday afternoon, an open house allowing the public inside. If you plan to check it out, use the Steel Ocean Sciences building entrance on Oxford Street. Paul Withers, CBC News, Halifax.
And there we go. All right, Ryan, another cool day today, but the weekend's here.
Dramatic pause before we get to that weekend forecast. Yes, thanks so much, Amy. And happy Friday. No doubt about that. We're here again. And you know what? The weekend not looking too bad. Pretty cloudy out there today, as expected, and a bit cool. A couple of showers kicking around, but they're fairly isolated. Now we back things out, and we are, again, watching a system that's passing well to our east. That's moving out towards Newfoundland. We got another system here that's going to be generally tracking along the same path, and with that will throw some clouds into the mix this weekend and bring us a chance of some isolated showers. The best chances are indeed going to be Saturday night into Sunday morning, Mother's Day morning, for the east. Cape Breton, the North Shore, edging into the Halifax area, but looks like mainly the Eastern Shore and North Shore and east of that line. You can see kind of brighter skies and milder temperatures towards the west of the province. That's where we'll have a better chance of edging into those low to even mid-teens, especially on Sunday. Now, the timeline of all this, you can see clouds a little on the stubborn side, but we will see some breaks of sun throughout the day tomorrow, no question about that, especially in the morning. Clouds building up into the afternoon because that system is going to be approaching. There's our chance for showers Saturday night into Sunday morning for Cape Breton, eastern parts of the mainland. As we said, that will move out and we'll see some gradual clearing in behind that system. And again, the opportunity for a few more sunny breaks, especially into the latter half of the day. Now for Monday, quiet as well, and it does look like temperatures are going to be edging upward as we move into next week, talking a little more widespread mid to high teens with that 7-day forecast. We'll break it down with full details in just a few minutes.
Good for those May flowers, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, the provincial and federal governments are partnering with Mount St. Vincent University on a $10 million expansion of the school's Child Study Centre. After its renovation, the new center will have an additional 82 childcare spaces, including up to 32 spaces for infants. A parent on the center's board says the site has been a great opportunity for her son, and she's excited that the expansion means more children will get to experience it.
It is so special having people that truly care and believe in our children. The environment and educators are supportive to all learners, and there's a real sense of family and community at the center. Having my son at the Child Study Center provides me with a daily sense of peace. I know his needs are being met and he is well cared for.
The university's president says that along with more childcare spaces, the expansion means more opportunities for research, study, and professional development, something that can benefit the entire sector.
New high-caliber teaching spaces will support professional development opportunities for those already working in the sector and will be key learning spaces for greater numbers of students pursuing early childhood education as their chosen profession. In those teaching spaces, students will be learning from the best of the best.
Design work for the center has started and construction is expected to take 2 years. Well, for years, Black communities in Halifax have not been at the table when it comes to development. Gentrification in areas like the North End has seen rising rents push many people out. There are now renewed calls for the province to allow a tool that would give African Nova Scotians a voice in new projects. Our Haley Ryan has that story.
Halifax's North End has changed dramatically in the past decade. New apartments and condos have brought in new residents and businesses, bumping up against public housing and buildings that were once affordable. Some are left wondering what it might have looked like if the historic Black community here had a real say.
Once it's all said and done and the development's finished, you don't see anyone of African Nova Scotian descent living in these buildings.
Morton's group is hoping to get a piece of land in the Cogswell District project so locals can decide what's built. He and others are renewing a push for community benefit agreements. These would grant communities legal standing in new projects so residents could require affordable housing, green space, or jobs as part of a development. He says these agreements might have changed what happened with former school sites like St. Patrick's Alexandra or Bloomfield, which are sitting vacant.
Perhaps we would have saw that community center that we wanted to see, and the developer could have still had his 15 to 20-story tower.
It's been more than a year since Halifax asked the province to change the city charter to allow for these agreements. They're not new. Benefit agreements were used in Vancouver to ensure community centers and affordable housing came out of the 2010 Olympics. Toronto and cities in the United States also regularly use them.
We can also redress some of those historic wrongs that have been done as a result of a policy that's been oppressive and a policy that really dismissed the needs and wants and desires of the community.
The historic Black community of Upper Hammonds Plains has also seen rapid growth, but they had success last year when the city tightened zoning laws. Advocate Curtis Wiley says that's only a stopgap, and they need community benefit agreements to help people thrive.
I think any community, any group of people that are, tied to a place and really feel that sense of community ought to consider one and ought to support those that are advocating for them as just another way for us to be able to, solve a number of issues and feel more secure in the communities we live in.
The province is in talks with the city, but have not committed to anything yet. Area Councillor Lindell Smith says it only makes sense to have communities be a part of how they develop. He and the city's African Descent Committee have made the issue a priority and are watching what happens next. Haley Ryan, CBC News, Halifax.
Well, Chase the Ace fever has hit Cape Breton once again, this time in North Sydney. With just 2 cards remaining, organizers ran out of tickets and had to delay the draw until next week. Kyle Moore has the details.
As fast as the tickets are being put together, they are sold. The north side for Chase the Ace draw is down to just 2 cards. They are the hottest tickets in town right now.
Wherever you go to the grocery stores, you go to the corner stores, the gas stations, wherever they're selling tickets, you see people buying them, and you get people stopping on the street saying, how do I get tickets? How do I get tickets? Where do I get tickets? So it's pretty exciting.
Demand is so high, a bigger drum was rolled into the Northern Yacht Club today. The old one too small to hold the large amount of tickets sold for next week's draw. And that's not the only challenge organizers faced.
We had to get more tickets, and once we ordered the tickets, they didn't come in until this Wednesday. We did have a few in, but not enough to cover what we expect to sell.
The estimated jackpot is $340,000, but people here today think it will be a lot more. And it's not only the winner cashing in. The fundraiser helps support 6 local groups in the community who will get 20% of the proceeds.
It allows us to purchase healthier food, for one thing, and we wouldn't be able to do that without cash.
One of the groups benefiting is the North Sydney Food Bank. The number of people using the service has increased in just the last couple of months because of the high cost of food.
Right now we're averaging about 175 family units a month, but we're seeing a lot more seniors now than we have been in the last years.
The money will also help restore a small piece of Second World War history in Sydney mines. Gary Gallup, the chair of the Atlantic Memorial Park Society, hopes the draw continues until the final card.
Buy as many as you can. We have no problem with it. And don't be sad if it doesn't go this week, because next week it's 1 card and it'll definitely go then. So we're hoping on that too.
Craig Ivey agrees. He is the man who will pick the winning ticket out of the drum, and he is a marked man because of it.
I don't know how many people I see on the streets and they're hollering, Craig, I will draw my name out this week, or make sure my name, I'm looking for a retirement.
The big draw is Wednesday, May 15th. Kyle Moore, CBC News, North Sydney.
Well, 50 years ago, on May 11th, 1974, the first wrecking ball went through Halifax's Capitol Theatre. The theatre on Barrington Street brought Hollywood to Halifax in the 1930s. And a local author is keeping its joy alive. Have a look.
It's seeing the person smile. The minute I say, do you remember the Capitol? And they go, and then you just go from there. In 1930, the Capitol Theatre was the preeminent theatre in Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was built by famous players in 1930 to bring in the movie era, talking pictures.
There's only one charming woman I'm interested in tonight. Of course, I mean you, Mother.
My name is Cynthia Henry. I'm the author and publisher of the book Remembering the Halifax Capitol Theatre, 1930 to 1974. It was really quite a beautiful theatre and built in the medieval theme with gorgeous reds throughout the theatre and tapestries, chandeliers galore, and there was operas on the stage and ballets right at the foot of Spring Garden and Barrington Street, where currently the Maritime Centre is built. The people told me stories of how they felt like royalty walking into that place. They dressed for the occasion as well. Of course, my mother remembers wearing long white gloves and beautiful dresses, and I still have those dresses. And I can imagine her walking in that theater in the 50s and just feeling like royalty. And it was her stories actually over the years that I used to wonder, what was this theater all about?
Halifax faced a serious problem. Its normal living and entertainment facilities.
I think it certainly brought joy to a city that was coming, of course, when the war started. There was a lot of grieving. Nova Scotia, there, Portia White, Canadian. You fell in love at the theatre. You met boyfriends and girlfriends. You were proposed to in the theatre. You had your first date at the Capitol, or you went to an opera. There was so much romance and love at the Capitol. I can well imagine why people just were heartbroken when that theatre came down. Famous players came to MT&T in 1969. They couldn't make a go of it anymore. Trying to fill all those seats with moviegoers, they came to this agreement, and famous players said, when you buy the property, you have to demolish the Capitol. They didn't want any competition for Paramount Theatre. Saturday, May 11th, 1974, the first wrecking ball went through the Capitol. I had a dream once. One dream only, and I think I was transported to the stage of the Capitol. And I walked up on that immense stage and I looked back towards the audience, and yeah, I still choke up today. This is the ticket dispenser. Everybody who was anything to do with the Capitol saved everything. They didn't want to see that theater go. They felt if they could even hang on to an exit sign, they could say, I was there. That's how they brought all the tapestries down, the beautiful chandeliers, all the seats were taken out of the theater, the stage curtains were removed, beautiful signage came out of the theater, and certainly anything that could walk out went. So people started sending me stuff in the mail, and every day it was Santa was in town. I would open up my mailbox, huge parcels coming in, and of course Dow Theatre contacted me and said, we have all these pieces we'd like to give to you. And of course there were people saying it was just a faux, it was just pretend. The walls weren't really stone, they were made to look stone. The suits of armor, it was all pretend and play, and I think, why can't we preserve a little bit of that? So it is pretend and play. That's what theater's all about. When you looked up, you would have been face on with these gargoyles. I feel honored to have possessed for a brief time these artifacts. I hope in future I can find a location for them. They're not mine to keep, and they're not mine to sell. People have offered me money for them. I say, sorry, I'd rather they go to the city library, someplace to find a home, a permanent home for these artifacts.
Coming up, the United Nations voted in favor today to grant new rights and privileges for Palestinians. And high school students in Truro took part in a Maui-Omi. We'll tell you all about it after the break. And of course, Ryan has that all-important weekend forecast. We will see you on the other side of the break. All right, Ryan, it doesn't sound like too bad a weekend shaping up. Not, beach weather maybe, but pretty decent.
Pretty
It's
decent,
spring, right?
for sure. For early to mid-May, looking pretty good, gotta say. We've got, some clouds that are going to be a bit stubborn, but we'll see some sunny breaks, especially towards the western parts of the province, as we mentioned off the top of the show. One thing I didn't mention that folks are buzzing about is the possibility of the Northern Lights being visible here in the Maritimes this weekend.
How do the clouds factor into that?
Well, yeah, we'll walk you through the timeline. Tonight is definitely going to be the best chance of that into tomorrow morning. Have a look at, this is the forecast from the Space Weather Prediction Center. And this is the Aurora forecast. And you can see everything in red is where there's going to be a good chance of the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, being visible tonight. And you can see that line pushes way down into the Great Lakes. The area in green stretches down into New Brunswick. Now that red line, that's the view line where they think that, yes, possibly it could be viewable even as far south as southern Nova Scotia. Now, the all-important cloud forecast, and looking at that cloud right there in Lower Truro, yeah, it's pretty capped right now, obviously, and so we're going to have to do something about that. But you will see with this outlook here, and we'll walk you through the hour by hour, that there is a pretty good possibility that we'll see those clouds breaking up overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. Single digits have been the name of the game today. 13-0 in Yarmouth and 10 in Parsboro. That's our two of our hot spots. You can see the winds still in from the northeast, and that has just been keeping things rather unsettled. We've got a couple of showers kicking around. Most of the activity has been sailing to our south today. This low is going to continue to move out to Newfoundland. We've got this next low, which is developing here along the coast. That is going to cut in and basically impact the eastern half of the province with some shower chances later tomorrow, more so tomorrow night into Sunday morning. And then we're just going to be watching, some kind of building unsettled weather off to our west that will push in for mid next week. Temperatures into the 20s from Vancouver into the prairies today, in Winnipeg as well. 16 in Toronto. We're certainly into the cool pocket across the country right now, but not for long. Temperatures, you can see tonight will be pretty chilly, down to the freezing mark. And so if you are heading out to possibly view those northern lights, be mindful of that. You're going to have to bundle up. And so it is expected that the clouds will become partly cloudy to even mainly clear through the overnight tonight, especially in through the north and east. That's where temperatures are going to be coolest. For tomorrow, we're going to be looking at, a brighter start to the day with a mix of sun and cloud, and then even some mainly cloudy skies edging in towards eastern parts of the mainland for tomorrow afternoon. For you folks in Cape Breton, that cloud will increase as we move through the early afternoon. By the looks of things, temperatures will range from 8 to 10, maybe 11 degrees. We can see those winds in from the east to northeast tomorrow. For the central parts of the province, temperatures generally into the low double digits and even some low teens possible. And as we look into the west, again, bit of an east flow here. So places like Lunenburg, the South Shore will be a bit cooler. Inland, a better chance of cracking into the 12 to 13 degree range. Now, a little more northerly component to the wind on Sunday. Temps still around 8 to 10 degrees for Cape Breton. Looking at single digits along the coast of the Northumberland shore, but double digits inland, and the warmest temps are going to be in through the west. That's where we will see our warmest temps and our brightest skies. There are those shower chances into Mother's Day morning and then clearing out. And yes, we are looking at, again, a more favorable afternoon and quiet as we turn the page into next week. 15 degrees on Monday, looking pretty good. We'll see Tuesday edging up into the high teens, shower chances rolling in kind of later Wednesday and into Thursday. But yeah, temperatures definitely look like they're going to be trending upward, closer to seasonal, even a little above seasonal for good chunks of next week, Amy.
That is good news.
It certainly is.
All right, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Well, 2 years have gone into planning a cultural event that took place at a high school in Truro this week. Students at Cobequid Educational Center organized a Maui Omi. It was a chance for students to share parts of their Mi'kmaq traditions with the community. The CBC's Sissimo Han was there.
A lot of these people, these students, never been to a powwow before. They never seen dancers, no nothing. But being able to bring the powwow to them and show them our culture, our heritage, and invite them out to come, it means a lot.
Maui Omi is a Mi'kmaq word meaning gathering, and it's a special event that features drumming, dancing, singing, and celebration with community.
It's pretty good. considering this is our first ever Maliomi, I'd say it's a pretty good turnout of schools, students, and some answers too.
2 years of planning went into this event, with the students leading the planning process.
A lot of work, a lot of busy hours, thinking about who we could bring in, anyone we want to help.
All kinds of work, honestly. It was kind of like there wasn't any certain thing people had to do. It was kind of we all just worked together and planned it.
But a lot of people came and helped. A lot of people's families came and helped. And a lot of students, which is amazing because it's student-led. But I think a lot of work, hard work was put into this.
Student organizers are grateful for the chance to share their culture with the community and believe it serves as a learning opportunity to reduce bias and create better understanding of Mi'kmaq ways of being.
It makes me really happy. I'm glad that a lot of different schools came to enjoy this, not just CEC, and I'm glad that the students and the dancers get to have this.
So we're showing our culture to the school, to more people who will hopefully respect it, who will hopefully consume it, and it's just really, really nice.
I believe it is important to know so they know why we do things in school, such as smudging, praying, or wearing my hair long, as I have it braided here today, or ribbon skirts, shirts, so that they can learn and gain the knowledge in a respectful manner.
And there's a surprise guest today. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yep. Notorious Creed. He's really, res famous, I would say.
Hey, why don't we have a special guest come out? And then Notorious Creed name popped up, and we got talked to him last summer, got him to come out, and yeah, he put on an awesome show.
Sissa Mohan, CBC News, Truro.
Thanks for that, sis. Well, up next, I'll talk with Stacey Rutterham with Nova Scotia Parents for Public Education, and I'll ask about the rash of bomb threats at the Halifax area schools this spring. That is our newsmaker. Stay with us. You're watching CBC Nova Scotia News. Two teens are facing mischief and threats charges related to a bomb threat this week at a Halifax high school. It is the latest in a rash of such incidents at schools in the region for more than a month. Stacey Rutterham is with the Nova Scotia Parents for Public Education. So Halifax police say there have been 25 of these kinds of messages since April 1st. I guess first off, what do you make of that number of bomb threats in such a short amount of time?
Well, I think it's probably a case of a little bit of, copycatting from one school to the next or within the same school at different times. I think that kids are looking for a reaction. They're looking to see how the adults in the building are going to respond to these situations. And maybe they are looking at getting the school closed for multiple of different reasons. We've had this discussion in our group about things that drive kids to do these kinds of behaviors. And it could be anything from a child that's worried about an exam, maybe some anxieties in that form, but there could also be a threat to the child with regard to bullying or an after-school fight. There could be a lot of different things going on, but we're not sure. And that's the part that I think that we'd like to kind of see our schools and the RCEs digging into.
Well, how do you feel HRCE has handled these situations?
Well, one thing that parents would like is a little more communication with regard to what's happening. For instance, the HRP has issued a statement today saying that 2 youths were charged in a situation at one school, but we have heard nothing from the HRCE, and we would expect to, because most parents wouldn't be looking to the police department for information about what's going on in the schools. And this is an ongoing concern, not just about the bomb threats, but about a lot of the situations that our schools are seeing, where the statements that do come out are somewhat boilerplate and sometimes non-existent. So
you want specific messages, and how do you want them communicated to families?
Well, people would like to get the emails sooner or text messages in the moment. We would like to know, what has happened, what is being done about it, and we would like to know when things have been resolved and how they've been resolved. Right now, charges have been laid, but we don't know what the outcome of that will be. So there's still, a bit of a wait to find out what the consequences will be for this action. I think that the consequences in this situation will maybe send a message to future culprits who want to make these false threats against schools. We already have enough threats and dangers in our schools with the violence and other situations that are erupting recently. And I just don't think we need to have any added stress and anxieties on top of those.
So you think these charges could be a deterrent?
If they actually lead to consequences, yes, I do believe so. I think that's one thing that kids have come to expect in today's world, is that there really are no consequences, that they aren't going to be punished, or they aren't going to, have any real pain from their behavior. I guess is what I'm thinking. But I don't know that it's only about consequences. I think it's also about finding out why, really digging into finding out why. And when you know who's done it, you can work with them to find out why they've done it and figure out ways to make sure that others aren't feeling the same way, or make sure that others aren't thinking that they're just, playing a fool's game.
Well, overall, since, this started April 1st, how are families, parents and students feeling about all of it?
Well, there's a lot of frustration. A lot of parents and families are frustrated by the fact that it's happening at all, because it's a very disruptive situation in the schools. Teachers are feeling frustrated as well. It takes away from very valuable class time at a very important time of year for our graduates and other students. There's also some concerns about what impact these false threats are having on students who have dealt with real threats and real violence and real situations in their lives and what they might be feeling and thinking in the moment. A lot of students are vulnerable when they see a lot of police around. There are students who have come here from other countries to escape situations where bombs are a real thing, and here we are in Nova Scotia having to deal with a threat of a bomb in one of the most important places in a child's life, and it's supposed to be a safe place.
All right, we will leave it there. Stacey Rutterham, thank you so much for your time. We do appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Coming up, Russian forces launched an armored ground attack on Friday near Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, opening a new front in a war that has long been waged in the east and south. Welcome back. The UN General Assembly has voted to back a Palestinian bid to become a full member. It is a highly symbolic move since any membership application must be approved by the Security Council. But the resolution grants the Palestinian territories new rights and privileges. The CBC's Richard Madden has the details.
Chaos and panic in Rafah. Tens of thousands of civilians forced to flee their homes after new warnings by Israel's military of an imminent push further into the Gaza Strip. Israel believes Rafah is the last major Hamas stronghold, but the UN warns the growing violence and mass displacement is at a crisis point.
A massive ground attack in Rafah would lead to an epic humanitarian disaster and pull the plug on our efforts to support people as famine looms.
Will all delegations confirm?
As the war intensifies, the UN General Assembly passed a symbolic vote to give full membership to an independent Palestinian state. Canada was among the nations to abstain, while the US and Israel voted against.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands. Shame on you.
The resolution now goes to the UN Security Council, where the U.S. is expected to veto it, as it only supports a two-state solution agreed upon by both sides.
They go into Rafah. I'm not supplying the weapons.
All this comes as U.S. President Joe Biden defends his threats to withhold sending weapons to Israel if it follows through on a full-scale assault in Rafah. Israel's prime minister thinks the U.S. is making a mistake.
If Israel has to stand alone, we'll stand alone. I've known Joe Biden for many years, so 40 years and more. We often had our agreements, but we've had our disagreements.
President Biden is facing growing divisions in his own party over his support for Israel, and his evolving stance could not only affect his support with voters in his re-election bid, it could also impact delicate negotiations to secure a ceasefire. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
The United States announced an additional $400 million in weapons and equipment today for Ukraine. It came after Ukrainian forces say they repelled a Russian ground attack near the northeastern city of Kharkiv. As the CBC's Briar Stewart reports, there is speculation Moscow is planning a summer offensive in the region.
As the sun was rising, Russia's latest drone attack on the Kharkiv region. At least 3 homes caught fire and dozens of others were damaged. Around the same time, Ukraine says Russia launched a ground offensive towards Vovchansk, a city less than 5 kilometers from the border. The military started to evacuate the few thousand people still living there. Tamaz Gambarashvili is in Vovchansk and spoke to CBC News despite a shaky cell phone signal and the ongoing explosions. He said while people were used to shelling, they were, quote, not ready to wake up to such a massive attack. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was meeting with the president of Slovakia, said the country's military was prepared. But he said it's important to understand that Russia can increase and bring more forces in this direction. Officials had been expecting Russia to launch an offensive in the region, which is home to Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Russia failed to capture the city in the early days of its invasion, and since then Ukraine has built up its defenses, making it a much harder target. There can be no what-ifs. They will not break through, said this woman. No, I will not go anywhere, says this man. I will be in Kharkiv till the end. While Russia's military might not be able to seize large areas, the offensive could further stretch Ukraine's resources.
To thin the Ukrainian defenses in Donbas and to make resource management when it comes to the new supplies that are coming in from the US more difficult.
Ukraine says it has sent reinforcements to the Kharkiv region and it's preparing for a counter-offensive in the east, which it expects Russia to launch in the coming weeks. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
Canada's economy added 90,000 jobs in April, the biggest gain in 15 months. At the same time, unemployment rate remained unchanged at 6.1%. StatsCan data shows last month's gains were widespread across the service sector. More than half were part-time jobs. Wage growth slipped, and the stubbornly flat unemployment affected all major demographic groups. It comes amid speculation of a potential Bank of Canada interest rate cut in June. Well, CBC News has learned the Women's National Basketball Association is expanding to Toronto. The team will tip off in 2026. Similar reports in March ended when the league said there would be just one new team next year. It hasn't confirmed the new report, but 4 people tell CBC the announcement will be made May 23rd. Spearheading the franchise is sports mogul Larry Tannenbaum's Kilmer Group, stakeholder in the company owning the Toronto Raptors and the Leafs. Well, Canada's main stock index edged lower today after closing at a record high yesterday. Here's a look at where the markets were as we head to break. So it sounds like the weekend has some opportunities for folks to get out and about, maybe take some more pictures for your mailbag there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has been chock full the last couple of weeks. Really, I think everybody getting out and getting a little more active. And thank you so much to everybody for sharing your pictures. I wish we could get to them all. Tonight's is a beautiful one. And we'll zoom in on North Shore yet again. And this one from Malagash. And Amy asked me what this one was about, and I didn't give her.
I wouldn't tell
her, so she said it must be a horse, and it is a horse.
I know you too well.
Beautiful shot from Chance Harbor and Leslie. Thank you so much.
That's a great shot, by the way.
It really is. sunset there. And yeah, beautiful. Thanks, Leslie, for sharing Ryan's pics at CBC.ca. I think that might be the first picture from horseback.
It could be.
We've had lots of horse pictures, but from a horseback.
It's a very nice perspective.
Yeah, it certainly is. Temperatures for tomorrow ranging between 8 and 11 for kind of the eastern areas of the province, at 10 to 13 for central and western areas. That northeast wind, and we will see the clouds building up. Isolated chance of a late day shower in the east, but for the most part, that's going to hold off until Saturday night and into Sunday morning, and then we'll see those lingering shower chances for Cape Breton and the North Shore, edging down towards places like Sheet Harbor early Sunday. But for the most part, by the time most of us are out the door on Sunday, it is going to be clearing, and there is that rain that we'll be tracking in slowly but surely. Note 6 p.m. there again, still looks like for the most part offshore, and then it comes in Saturday night into Mother's Day morning on Sunday, and we are looking at that clearing, as we said, into the afternoon as that system departs. We'll see an area of high pressure kind of edging back into the area. Pretty nice for Monday, Tuesday, with some shower chances moving back in to the province for midweek.
Yeah, the temperature's bumping up.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Ryan, next time you're planning a trip, maybe take a chance on Macomb, Illinois. Here's why. The town has just unveiled what it calls the world's largest Monopoly board, a life-size tribute to the board's game creator, Lizzie Maggie, who was born in Macomb. The board is basically the city's downtown.
Players roll the dice using an app and move around the board like normal. They can even take a selfie in jail. The project took about 6 years to make, and they hope to expand it even further soon.
Yeah, don't stay in jail, though. That's it for us tonight. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Take care.